Right, for more on this, let's bring in civil rights attorney and Fox News contributor, the great, the awesome, and amazing Leo Terrell. Leo, good to see you in person.
Hi.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sean.
We've all been watching this case for the last 5 weeks. Just want to get your read on where we're at, what you think is going to happen here as a longtime courtroom animal.
35 years as a lawyer, a trial lawyer. I'll tell you right now, this is not a case. This is a political witch hunt against Trump. Their star witness to prosecution is a liar, a professional liar, Michael Cohen, and a thief. In my opinion, there should be, the judge, if he did the right thing, this case should be dismissed yesterday. But he's politically invested, and that's been told about his family's involvement. But Trump is going to be, in my opinion, worst scenario, a hung jury. Best scenario, an outright acquittal.
Okay, so after watching what happened today, not necessarily sure if they were going to call Costello or not, but certainly they did. There were some tense moments in the courtroom because Costello, who's very seasoned, would answer a question and go on and on. Judge Merchan wanted to cut him off if there was an objection, and so he had to kind of scold him and tell him how he needed to answer. And the big question, of course, is if they bloodied Michael Cohen and they proved him to be a liar and they brought that out to the jury, a thief, as you mentioned, somebody who openly hates Donald Trump and wants to see him in jail, so he's up there and he's got some sort of an agenda. Did they need to drag it out and make it longer and put Costello up there?
I think having Costello up there basically was the final bow and ribbon to prove that Michael Cohen is a liar. And I think he basically contradicted Michael Cohen and basically said that Trump had zero knowledge of any of the actions done by Michael Cohen in order that NDA deal with Stormy Daniels. I think that was very, very effective. And I think the interplay between between Costello and the judge, the jury picked that up. And the jury obviously feels, in my opinion, that the judge is favoring the prosecution. And that is not a good sign.
Listen, judges are supposed to be fair and impartial, and they want to protect the rights of the defendant. And I want to talk about one part of this case, which is the election interference portion that's been alluded to but not really charged. But this is the allegation that gives life to the misdemeanor charges in New York that make them felonies. The only evidence that's been presented is that Michael Cohen was convicted of election interference, right? But the purpose for allowing that testimony in was only to impeach the credibility of Michael Cohen, not for the fact that Michael Cohen actually interfered with an election. So that becomes very confusing, and it's confusing for a jury, which means the judge isn't doing his job to keep this evidence out of the courtroom that's going to impact, I think, the decision of the panelists. They're going to decide guilt or innocence. And again, your take on this?
Yeah, Sean, this is where, normally you don't want lawyers on the jury box, but here's where the lawyers may be very helpful in distinguishing the purpose of that evidence. That evidence should have never gotten in.
Never.
And that judge allowed it in. Again, I want to be clear. That judge is financially invested in this case for Trump to be found guilty. Hopefully, those attorneys.
You might say his daughter.
His daughter.
Who works in Democrat politics.
Right, and that's why he should have recused himself. But I think that those lawyers in the jury will hopefully explain it to the other jurors.
All right, let's move on to this. President Biden and his merry band of misfits spent the weekend attacking their favorite target, the Supreme Court.
Trump openly encourages voter suppression and election subversion. He and his MAGA extremists gutted affirmative action. Let me ask you, if he's reelected, who do you think he'll put on a Supreme Court? You think he'll put anybody who has a brain?
And Congressman Jamie Raskin was no better, accusing the justices of flat-out corruption.
There's an absolute collapse of the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. You've got billionaire sugar daddies who are paying for justices' private school tuitions and their cars and mortgages and just crazy stuff going on.
So if it's not working for them and they don't feel the court's on their side, then all of a sudden it's corrupt. And they're making a case, I feel like, for court packing going into the election.
Oh, absolutely. Could you imagine if they would have captured the Democrats, the Supreme Court? This country would be turned upside down. Thank goodness we have independence on the Supreme Court. And regarding Raskin's comments, I'm old enough to remember when the court voted 9-0, including 3 liberal judges, to overturn Colorado's crazy decision to keep Trump off the ballot. This is ridiculous. This is nothing more than politics, and the Supreme Court is the last segment of our branch of government that honestly enforces the rule of law.
You know, Leo, they can do this because when you haven't taught your young people about civics and the Constitution and why we have certain rights, you can make cases against a court that's upholding the Constitution, protecting their rights. You can demonize them, and the American people go along with the Democrat Party because they don't know any better because they haven't been taught it.
You know what, Sean? You're absolutely right, being a former school teacher, but here's the advantage that
What
Democrats
haven't you done, Leo?
90% of the media is in their pocket. Thank goodness for Fox, because you're hearing the alternative. But the Democrats are protected because the media primarily covers up for them. And this spin that they're putting on, a lot of people believe it. Thank goodness we have Fox News.
They do. Most people I speak to do say they watch CNN or they watch MSNBC, and that's their understanding of how the world is.
And don't forget
you have the option to turn on another channel.
Right, and don't forget those jokers on The View. I mean, it's just outright nonsense, lies. That's what it is, and they don't care if they lie.
Leo, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad
to be here.
To see you.
Good to see you live and in person.
Thank you. Say hi to Rachel.
I will. And what hasn't Leo Terrell done? A man of the courtroom, a teacher, everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. All right.